Alright, I finally got my ESC in the mail right here from GoolRC. And I've got my adapter, and I've got my receiver, and my transmitter, and that's the old ESC and receiver here. And we're going to swap it out, and hopefully this is going to work out. And it'll bind with my new remote. And we're going to see how this goes. This is my first time. I've never done anything like this before. So, wish me the best of luck. There it is. Straight from China. Is it in English? Yes, it is.
Yay, English.
Alright, this ESC is for a brushed engine, and it's a 40 amp. It is waterproof, supposed to be waterproof. Here it is in here. And we're going to find out, I guess, if it's waterproof. I'm not going to be submerging it, but it will be getting wet. And that's it right there. It has a built-in BEC. It's up to 3 LiPo, 2 or 3 LiPo. And it's supposed to be pretty much pre-programmed. Should be just plug and play. It has all the safety features already in it. It has the throttle cut off, has the battery cut off, and has overheat cut off built all into it. Alright, this is my flysky receiver that I received with the remote, and that's the bind plug, which you're supposed to bind right there into the bind plug, the second one down. From what I've read and looked up, you're supposed to just be able to plug it right in there and hit the bind on the remote, and we should be able to hook it right up. Yep. I'm going to take this thing out. I'm going to take this, just set it over here for now. Take the adapter. I forget which side is which. Alright, that worked. So I have to adapt it because it has a different style plug. It has the Tamiya, and this is the T plug for the battery. I can get it to go in there. I'm going to use the other battery. I think that's bigger.
Go.
Alright, I just discovered that this T-plug adapter is just the tiniest bit too big for this original battery. We have this 5,200 milliamp hour Florion battery, and it fits on there pretty good. It's got a slightly bigger T-plug. It fits perfect, so I guess we're going to try that just to get it running, because this is not going to fit. Alright, and here we're going to come over here to these wires for the motor and try to hook these up. Right now I don't think it makes much of a difference. We'll figure out which direction we want them going later, because the poles affect which direction the motor spins. So we can reverse it on the remote, but I'm probably just going to switch the wires back if they're not proper. So this is just a shot in the dark just to get it started. Got an on and off switch right here. I might put the other one on so it fits inside of this slot, but that'll be for a later date. And this is the 3 plug that goes into the receiver. It should go into the first plug. And then you take the bind plug, which is basically just a jumper. Plug that in there. Alright, and we give this on switch a switch. Alright, she's blinking. We have a blink light on the ESC, but the receiver is not flashing yet. Not sure if that's supposed to be or not. So what we're going to do is, while that's on the bind mode, because the jumper's in there, this is flashing, so it should be ready to bind. So we have the bind button on the remote, and when you power it on, you hold the bind down and push the power, and it should have bound to this ESC and to this receiver, I mean. So I'm not sure if that worked. Right now it's set on channel or model 2. We're going to see if that worked here in a second. I'm going to have to cut it back off and then cut it back on, and we're going to test to see if that worked. Alright, I had to unplug this 3-wire plug and spin it around, and now I've got my receiver flashing, which it wasn't flashing before. I thought that was supposed to be flashing, but it is now. So we're going to try this for binding. Cut this remote off, hold the bind, and cut it on, and it stopped flashing. The light stopped flashing, so I'm going to go ahead and cut the remote off, or no, cut the controller, the car off, and the controller off. And now when I cut it back on, after removing this bind plug, we should essentially have control over the engine now. I'm going to turn the controller back on. It's on Model 2 still. I'll take this off the ground just for safety. Alright. We're not flashing anymore on the receiver, and we've got a constant flash on the ESC. Let's see if this works.
Oh no.
Nothing yet.
Go.
Alright, I had to switch it over a couple channels to figure out which one was which. I had it on BCC, which I'm not 100%. I needed to read the instructions, I guess, first. But I switched it to channel 1, and that's the steering control, which activated the throttle. So I switched it to channel 2, and it's in there pretty good. And now I'm going to show you. We have, with our flysky remote, it is working good, and it looks like it even has a brake working on it too, because it didn't used to stop like that. So I think this thing has a brake programmed into it, or the ESC has a brake programmed into it. So, but either way you look at it, that is working. It's back from the dead because we had this junk ESC receiver in there, and that could only hold 2S. We can go up to 3S if we wanted to now. And basically got my truck back. The only thing I have to wait for now is this 5 plug is not compatible with this receiver. So in order to fix that issue, I have a servo coming from a different type of buggy. It's very similar to this. I believe it's like a Fyu or some sort. So basically I'm going to have to wait to be able to steer my truck. But other than that, you know, the gist of it is
You have a truck.
it can work now and everything's functional. It's going to be able to be no problem, and this is my first time doing this, so really it was kind of a learning experience, and I got the wires right on the first try. It goes forward with forward and reverse with reverse. So it's looking pretty good, and I'm going to have to trim it out maybe to get this big battery in there, because apparently it's not going to work with this old little battery plug, and that is an issue because the battery tray only fits that one right now currently. But I have a much nicer computer system in there now. It's much stronger and completely upgradable now, and I can do whatever I want to. And I might even see some sort of way of snagging these wires and converting it to have my lights on my 3rd channel, because I have 3 channels on this receiver. Auxiliary, so I can
have an auxiliary, so I can
go ahead and put my lights on the auxiliary if I wanted to. So there you go. The wires are all hanging out, but I'm gonna get that all tied up here. And but regardless, I still have to do the servo in here. But that's it. We're working with the new remote, and everything's good to go.
New remote.
GoolRC.
Yay.
So far, so good. We'll